Hello everybody, and thanks for coming back to Dad's Diner and the Fab Feral 5 kitchen. Tonight I'm thinking about a steakhouse dinner. So what do you need for a steakhouse dinner? Well, you need a steak. And tonight I've got a New York strip, about an inch thick, that I got for about $10. It's about 12 ounces of steak. I'll be cooking this in this cast iron grill pan. Now this grill pan has about 2 or maybe 3 uses in its life, and one of those is cooking steak. And so I'll be grilling the steak in this pan, maybe 2 or 3 minutes per side, and then pop it in the oven to finish cooking to a medium rare. So what's the other main component to a steakhouse dinner? Well, it has to be the baked potato. And I've got a couple of russets here that I'm gonna pop in the oven and cook using a method from one of my heroes of cooking, Alton Brown. And I'm sure you've seen this method before. Olive oil, salt, place it in the oven right on the rack and let it cook for about an hour. The skin is crispy, it's delicious. It serves a perfect side dish for a New York strip or a ribeye steak. Tonight, as I said, I'm going with the New York strip. And I'm also going to cook some Brussels sprouts with a balsamic glaze. So I hope you stick with me to the end because this is going to look great and it's going to taste amazing, I can already tell you. So if there's any downside at all to a steakhouse dinner, it's just in the time it takes to prep it. So here's my New York strip. I've got it sitting out on the counter, coming to room temperature. I've also making sure that it's nice and dry because that's going to give me a nice dark sear when I put it into the pan. But the critical path is really the potato because this is going to take about an hour to cook to make sure the insides are fluffy and the outside is crispy like we want it. This is a pretty easy preparation. It just takes some time in the oven to cook. So I've got my oven set to 375 right now. And I'm just going to hit this with a good splash of olive oil and a healthy dose of salt. It's a good pinch. Now, I just want to make sure that these are coated completely because this is going to go directly into my oven. And that oil and salt is going to help the skins crisp up. Well, the oil will for sure, and the salt will make it flavorful. So if you so choose, you can eat that skin. I've washed these very well, scrubbed the outsides, and the skin will be totally edible. And honestly, I use this word a lot, but delicious. Now there's a couple of different methods to use to aerate or poke holes in these potatoes. You need to do that to allow the steam to come out while they're baking. That allows the inside to be nice and fluffy and not dense when it gets done. And so I've used a couple of different methods. One of my favorites is actually a corn cob holder, for the ends of corn. And it's got a handle on it and you can just poke some holes in your potatoes. I don't have one of those here, so what I'm going to use is an oyster knife. This one happens to be nice and sharp on the end. And so this will allow me to safely go deep into the potato. Now I've poked this about 6 or 7 times on each side, and I don't mind both sides being open and allowing juices to come out or steam to come out, because the first thing I'm going to do is put down a protective sheet of foil inside of my oven. And so on the low rack, I'm just going to slide in my aluminum foil, and that'll catch any drips that come off of these potatoes, either the oil dripping or any juices from inside, liquid from inside the potato itself. So all I'm going to do, make sure these are nice and coated, is place these right on the oven rack, knowing that anything that drips off those will fall right to the tin foil. Now it's just a waiting game on the potatoes, and in the meantime, I can start prepping the other parts of my meal. I'm going to start searing the steak about 20 minutes prior to the potatoes being done. 2 minutes per side in the pan, plus another 5 to 10 minutes inside the oven to bring up to temperature at that medium rare state. So that's about 15 minutes or 20 minutes prior to the end of the potatoes cooking. That gives me a good timer to start that process. Remember, I also need to let that steak rest and allow those juices to reincorporate into the meat. The other thing I can do is start prepping my Brussels sprouts. I've taken those cleaned Brussels sprouts and I've halved them and I've put them in the bowl that I used for the potatoes. So there's already a bit of olive oil in there. I've oiled this a little bit more salt and some pepper, and now it's just a matter of giving these a nice mix. Okay, these Brussels sprouts are now oiled, they're salted, they've got pepper, and I'm just going to roll them right into a baking dish, and they can sit here until I'm ready to pop them in the oven. These will bake for about 20 minutes at the end of the potato baking cycle. I've got my oven set at 375, but I might bump it up to about 400 for these Brussels sprouts. I want them to be nice and crispy on the outside, so a little more heat is not going to hurt these. And then at the end, I'll do a balsamic glaze to toss them in, and so I'll show you that process when we get there. Okay, my potatoes have been in the oven for about 40 minutes, so what I'm going to do is slide them over to one side of the oven, and I'm going to slide in my Brussels sprouts. In about 20 minutes, both of those, the potatoes and the Brussels sprouts, should be done. Now you can probably hear the fans going on in the background, and that's because I've started heating up my grill pan. I want this to be piping hot when I drop that steak in, and that'll probably happen in the next 5 or 10 minutes. That's also going to create some smoke. It's a hot pan, it's got some oil in there, it's going to smoke. And so I don't want to set off my fire alarms, so I've got my fans going on, and hopefully that will mitigate any of the smoke that comes out of the pan. I've let my steak sit out for about a half an hour and come to room temperature. I'm going to go ahead and salt generously on both sides. And also go in with some fresh ground black pepper. And I'm ready to lay these into the pan. So what I've got now is a very hot pan. I've tested this, little drop of water. It is steaming hot, well, piping hot. So I'm just going to coat this with a high smoke point oil on these grills inside this grill pan, because I don't want this to stick. I do want it to sear. And so now it's just a matter of laying this in and letting it go for 1 to 2 minutes, or actually 2 to 3 minutes. I'm going to place my grill press over the top of this just to make sure there's enough weight on top of that steak to get those grill marks nice and deep into that steak. Now on the back burner, I have my little old-fashioned pan here, and what I'm going to do is create the glaze for the Brussels sprouts, and it's really simple. It's 2 tablespoons of balsamic vinaigrette, or vinegar, and 2 tablespoons of honey. So I'll just let that heat up and combine, and it'll be ready to toss with the Brussels sprouts as soon as they're ready. Now, while the steak is cooking on the first side, I'm going to check my potatoes, and I'm looking for an internal temperature of about 200, 205 degrees. Oh, they feel great. And we are at just above 200, so they are perfectly done right now. I'm going to pull those out and let them rest on the counter. There's plenty of inside residual heat in those that'll keep them warm. I'm also going to pull out the tin foil because I don't need that. Slide my Brussels sprouts over and increase the temperature on this oven to 400, 425. Yeah, we'll go with 425. Just really put the heat to those Brussels sprouts, and hopefully they'll start to get a little bit crispy on the outside. Okay, my steak has been cooking for 3 or so minutes, and so it's time to flip it. I don't know if you can see that, but there's your first side. Back on the grill press. Now that the steak has had a chance to sear, it's still got about a minute left. Maybe 2 minutes left on that second side. But what I'm going to do is remove this foil and just drop, about 2 tablespoons of butter in this pan and a sprig of rosemary. And this is going to give me that steakhouse flavor. Grill pans are always fun to work with. and challenging at the same time. So it's hard to get that butter to a place where you can actually use it. But boy, I can smell that already. The butter, the rosemary, and of course the steak searing in the pan. It's going to be delicious. Okay, here's side 2. And I'm just going to give this an opposite grill. This will lessen my time in the oven, which is okay, but it'll give me that cross-hatch look. And also, allow me some more time to baste this in the butter sauce. On both sides. Oh yeah, this is going to be so good. Okay, one more quick baste. And I'm going to put this in the oven for about 5 minutes. Looking for an internal temperature of about 135. That'll give me what I feel is a good medium rare, somewhere in that range, steak. Well, I managed my smoke well in the room, so I was able to turn off the fan, so you can probably hear me a lot better now. But I wanted to just have you take a look at how these potatoes turned out. I mean, I think you can see how crispy they are, or appear to be. The outsides are going to be delicious. I mean, they've got the salt encrusted on the outside with that olive oil, and the insides are going to be nice and fluffy. So I can't wait to dig into those. I'm going to check my steak now to see what the internal temperature is. And it is ready. In fact, it might just be a little bit over. The danger of doing many things at one time. I might have cooked it a little bit over, but it'll still be very tasty. I like it to be medium rare. This may be a little bit more on the medium, pushing to medium well side, but hopefully there'll still be some pink inside, because that's what I like. The steak's been resting for about 5 minutes now. We've got probably another 5 minutes of rest, but there's my Brussels sprouts. And so I'm just putting those in that same bowl that I used before. And that honey and balsamic vinegar glaze, I'm just going to dump over the top of this and just give it a stir. These Brussels sprouts in balsamic and a little bit of sweetness will be a nice bright touch to the plate with the savory steak and the starchy potatoes. So I wanted to talk a little bit about a New York strip steak. You can see these main grill marks here. I got a couple of light grill marks going the opposite direction, or the quarter direction. But you want to cut any steak against the grain. That keeps the fiber short and makes it more tender when you eat it. And for a New York strip, the grain is essentially these dark grill marks here. I mean, that's the direction of the grain. And so this, of course, would be the opposite of the grain. You want to cut somewhere along that. And I'm going to cut at a bias somewhere along where these light marks are. So I'm just going to cut a few slices off of this and let you see. It's a hair bit overdone for me, but there's still some pink inside. It's going to be nice and juicy, you can tell. I mean, that's going to be delicious. What I'm going to do is just slice some nice bias cut pieces on this. Keep that against the grain. And I will plate up this dish so you can see it in full glory. I have my steak on the plate. I'll come over with my baked potato, and I just want to give it some help, and then give it a squeeze. Nice dollop of butter. You got to have sour cream on a baked potato, just to make sure. A little bit of salt. Some black pepper. And I've got some nice chives right here to add color and just a touch of some oniony flavor to that. And we can't forget the brightness of these Brussels sprouts. Now you know I need to try this steak. That is so good. The salt is perfect. It's juicy. You can taste that hint of rosemary in there, and the butter, of course. This is really good. And there you have it, a delicious steakhouse dinner made to order. And from Dad's Diner in the Fab Feral kitchen, thank you for joining me tonight. Order up!